Today's lesson is talking turkey about Thanksgiving. Hi, everybody. I'm Roger.
And I'm Mike.
And it's the month of November, so later in the month it's going to be Thanksgiving in the United States. And just a couple of weeks ago, I believe it was Thanksgiving in Canada. I guess your Thanksgiving up there in the Great White North is a few weeks earlier than the American one?
About a month earlier. It's usually sort of in the middle to end of October instead of November. Yeah.
Did you celebrate Canadian Thanksgiving this year here in Taiwan or back in Nova Scotia, wherever it is you're from?
No, I did not celebrate it here in Taiwan or in British Columbia or Quebec, where I have family. I actually have family in Nova Scotia, too. No, I did not. It's hard to find a turkey in Taiwan, and I don't think I have an oven big enough to cook one anyways, but I have celebrated American Thanksgiving here a few times. And yeah, the traditions are very similar in terms of the actual practice of Thanksgiving. We eat a lot of the same food. We sit around. We watch sports on TV later on often. But we don't have that sort of pilgrim and Indian story. The Canadian Thanksgiving is based more on the British harvest festival that they would have at the end of every growing season. You know, the farmers' work would be done. Around October, they would have cut down all the wheat and, collected all the crops, and that was the end of their working year. So it was time to celebrate the harvest or give thanks for all the plentiful bountitude of food that God had given us. So the idea is pretty similar, but of course at the American one, they have a few unique twists.
Okay, so let's talk about the American one here today. So we're talking turkey about Thanksgiving, and let's get to it. Let's listen to part one. It's a conversation between Susan and Jeff, and they're in the dormitory because they're students, I assume, here in Taiwan. So let's find out what they talk about right now.
Talking turkey about Thanksgiving.
Food, family, and football. Susan notices Jeff watching a video in their dorm's common room. Hey, Jeff, that looks like a fun video. What was the occasion?
Oh, hey, Susan. It's from my family's Thanksgiving dinner last year.
Thanksgiving? I know it's a big holiday in the U.S. I guess you must be missing your family back home.
Definitely. On Thanksgiving, families usually get together to share a huge meal that typically includes turkey, stuffing, and pumpkin pie. But it's about more than just food. It's a time to slow down, be thankful, and enjoy each other's company.
That sounds really nice. So what do people usually do besides eating?
A lot of families watch football, play board games, or just hang out. Some people also volunteer at food banks or shelters to help others.
That's lovely. And the Super Bowl, is that part of it?
Nope, that's in February.
Got it. Thanks for explaining that. Now I know more about the holiday.
大家好，第一部分介绍名词 dorm， 意思是宿舍。例如 Gordon lived in a dorm during his first year at college. Gordon 上大学的第一年住在宿舍里。或者 Sherry wasn't feeling well, so she went to her dorm to take a nap. Sherry 身体不舒服，就回宿舍睡觉了。继续看到副词 definitely， 表示肯定的或是的确。例如 That movie was definitely the best film I've seen this year. 那部片肯定是我今年看过最好的电影。或是 Are you going to the party tonight? Definitely, I'll see you there. 你今晚要去派对吗？当然啊，我们在那里见。接下来看到动词 volunteer， 它的意思是担任志工或是自愿做点点点。例如 Jimmy volunteered to take his grandmother to the hospital tomorrow. Jimmy 自愿明天带奶奶去医院。也可以说 I volunteered to clean the bathroom over the weekend. 我自愿在周末清洗浴室。另外 volunteer 也可以直接当名词，意思是志工或是自告奋勇者。例如 The new kids play area was built by volunteers. 新的儿童游戏区是由志工新建的。再看一个例句 Belinda is a volunteer at a local hospital. Belinda 是本地一间医院的志工。再来介绍名词 shelter， 表示收容所。我们可以说 Many animals were rescued and taken to a shelter during the flood. 洪水期间，许多动物获救并被送到收容所。又或者说 Christina always helps out at a homeless shelter during the holidays. Christina 在假日总是在一个街友收容所帮忙。另外，这个字也有掩蔽、庇护或是避难的意思。例如 We all ran for shelter when the storm began. 暴风雨来时，我们都跑去避雨。再看一个例子 We need to find shelter before it gets dark. 天黑之前，我们需要找个避难的地方。
Okay, so again, they're talking turkey about Thanksgiving. That's kind of an unusual phrase here to talk turkey about something. That just means to have an informal conversation about something. That's not very commonly used, but we're using it here because it has the word turkey in it, and Thanksgiving always involves turkey. There are other ways to express having an informal conversation, like shooting the breeze or chewing the fat, things like that, just having a chat or whatever. So yeah, we're having a chat about Thanksgiving, and this is part one here. We're talking about food, family, and football. The American kind football, the rest of the world which plays soccer, which they call football, but in the United States we call it football. And you've guys got football up in Canada too, although it's slightly different.
That is absolutely right, just like our Thanksgiving. And of course, also when you talk turkey, you're also talking in a very frank, honest, and straightforward kind of way. You know, if you want to cut through all the politeness and really get to the heart of the matter, you'd say, I want to talk turkey with you about something, but here we're going to give you the straight facts about Thanksgiving. No window dressing, no excess stuff that you don't need to know, the basic stuff, the ABCs of Thanksgiving. And yeah, we have Susan and Jeff here, and they're going to start off in part one with food, family, and football. Those three words pretty much sum up Thanksgiving in America, I think, for a lot of people. So that's a great place to start as we talk turkey about Thanksgiving with Susan and Jeff.
And Susan notices Jeff watching a video in their dorm's common room. Okay, so of course, if you're a student at a university that is far away from your home, you'll probably stay in a dormitory, or dorm for short. Okay, so here Susan begins the conversation. They're in the common room, so of course the students have their rooms, and then there's one room where they can all meet together or study or whatever. And Susan says, "Hey, Jeff, that looks like a fun video. What was the occasion?" So again, he's watching a video, probably on his phone, and she notices this video. It sounds like it's a lot of fun. What was the occasion? What was happening when you filmed that video?
All right. Well, Jeff ignores the fact that Susan was watching a video over his shoulder. That's probably okay because it wasn't a personal thing. And he's happy to explain. He says, "Oh, hey, Susan." So he sees her. They're friendly. They know each other. And then he explains what the video is. It's from my family's Thanksgiving dinner last year. How nice. But maybe Jeff's feeling a little homesick, you know, watching this video of his last trip home when he had Thanksgiving last year with his family and his uncles and aunts and grandparents and cousins and siblings are all there along with his parents, of course. So yeah, he's just enjoying these memories and this happy video from the past. And this kind of piques Susan's interest. She says, "Thanksgiving?" as a question. All right, so tell me more. I know it's a big holiday in the U.S. That's about all she knows. I guess you must be missing your family back home. Well, yeah, that's a pretty good assumption. If he's watching the video, clearly, unless he's looking for a turkey recipe that his grandmother talks about or something, it's probably because he misses his family. He's feeling a little homesick. But Susan knows that it's a big, important holiday in the same way that, you know, if you saw someone watching a video from Chinese New Year, you might think that they're reminiscing, they're feeling a bit homesick, and they're reliving some past happy memories. So it's a big, important holiday, and he's missing his family. Is all this true, Jeff?
Yeah, he says definitely, for sure, 100%, absolutely, that is the case. On Thanksgiving, families usually get together to share a huge meal that typically includes turkey, stuffing, and pumpkin pie. These things that we usually do. We eat turkey, we eat stuffing, and we eat pumpkin pie. I also remember cranberry salad, I guess it is, or cranberry pudding, or whatever you want to call it, and of course coffee afterwards. Turkey, of course, is a large game bird in North America. The meat is kind of dry, so you kind of have to put gravy on it. I don't think it's that great tasting, but it kind of tastes good if you pair it with other things like stuffing, which I think is made out of breadcrumbs and other kinds of spices and things like that. And then you cook it inside the turkey when it's roasting in the oven. And of course, pumpkin pie is pie made from pumpkins.
That's right. Along with that, of course, you'll have a few healthy things. You might have some mashed potatoes, some peas and carrots. A lot of Americans might have sweet potato and things like that alongside. So it's not just meat and gravy and pie. There are some vegetables in there too. But yeah, every family, they often have their own little traditions, and I'm sure there's regional differences. I can imagine people in different parts of America eating some local food along with some of this traditional stuff. But as he says, it's about more than just food. Yeah, we enjoy the food. Often there's a big family tradition with the food, but it's not just, hey, let's get together and eat and so long, see you later. He says it's a time to slow down, be thankful, and enjoy each other's company. I think it's the most family of American holidays. I think it's the one where you see the most traveling going on as people go home. It's kind of okay maybe to spend Christmas with your friends if you've moved away from home, but that traditional going home for Thanksgiving, I think that's one that a lot of people hold with a certain amount of importance, and it is a good time to reunite and reconnect and actually physically travel back to see your old family as you enjoy each other's company or have a good time together. So for Susan, she says that sounds really nice. It also probably reminds her in some ways of Chinese New Year and that kind of family reunion feeling and that effort that people make to get home and get back together. So it sounds really nice, really pleasant, enjoyable. So what do people usually do besides eating? Sure, because the meal can be quite a long meal, but there will still be time after the meal, and especially if the holiday stretches through the weekend, there's time to do other things. For example,
here Jeff says a lot of families watch football, play board games, or just hang out. Okay, so these are some other things that Americans do when it's Thanksgiving, besides eating. Of course, the Thanksgiving dinner usually takes place, I think it's on Thursday night or something. Usually it's the fourth Thursday of November. So what do you do during those 3 days? Well, you watch football. American football is quite popular. You could also play board games like Monopoly or Risk or Clue or whatever. There are various kinds of board games. Or you could just hang out. You can just stay home and chat with your family, chat with your mother or father. They can tell you stories about the old country.
Absolutely. So spending good quality family time together. And then he says some people also volunteer at food banks or shelters to help others. Well, that's a very nice idea. Maybe not as traditional as some of these other things, but something people these days might be trying to do more. I guess also maybe in the old days, a traditional visit to the church, going to church on Sunday with the family who are still there. That might be something that people do. But as fewer people go to church, maybe they look for other things to do that require a little bit of giving back to the community. You're volunteering at food banks or shelters. When you volunteer, you're basically giving up your time and energy to do something for no benefit to yourself. You're not getting paid. It's not your job. It's not a responsibility. It's something you're choosing to do with your free time to get out there and work and help out in some way that you think is good. So a lot of people will volunteer at different charities. If you think saving the whales is good, you're going to get out there and try to get donations to try to protect whales or increase public awareness of this type of thing. In a more sort of direct way, you can go to a food bank or a shelter. These will be set up around the city, maybe by the city, maybe by the church or some local social organization, or maybe a cooperation between some of those different institutions, between the government and religious groups or whatever, to give food to people who need food, people who are earning less money than they really require. They go to a place, often in a church or somewhere like that, a community center, and they might get bags of staple goods, canned goods, some bread, some rice, some things that they can make at homes to sort of supplement the food that they can afford to buy. So that would be a food bank. Or a shelter, this would be a place more for homeless people. Remember, in many parts of America, at the end of November, the weather is getting quite cold at that time. So a lot of these shelters are places where people who would otherwise be sleeping on the streets in the cold can go. They can get a hot meal, they can get a bed, they can get a warm place to stay. And of course, they need a lot of these volunteers. Working for a charity is never going to make you rich materially, but it can make you rich spiritually. So a lot of people try to give back to the community in many different ways. They can do that as well during Thanksgiving to make it a bit more meaningful.
And Susan says that's lovely. And the Super Bowl, is that part of it? Of course, in the NFL, the National Football League, their championship game is called the Super Bowl. She wants to know, is the Super Bowl the football game you watch? He says, nope, that's in February. You got to wait a couple of months for that. And Susan says, got it. Thanks for explaining that. Now I know more about the holiday. So that brings us to the end of the first part of our lesson for today. Here comes part 2, a taste of Thanksgiving. Let's listen.
A taste of Thanksgiving. Susan and Jeff continue their conversation about Thanksgiving. So, what's your favorite aspect of Thanksgiving?
Definitely the family dinner.
What's it like?
Well, we always have a golden roasted turkey. Then there's mashed potatoes with rich gravy, buttery stuffing, and of course sweet pumpkin pie. The whole house smells amazing.
Wow, that sounds delicious. I'd love to experience Thanksgiving someday.
Actually, since I can't go home this year, I was thinking of cooking a simple Thanksgiving meal here in the dorm.
Really? That's a great idea.
Would you like to join me for it? It won't be fancy, but we can still make it special.
I'd love to. What foods would we need to get?
Turkey might be tough to find, so we could have chicken instead. We can also get some potatoes, some vegetables, and maybe a pumpkin pie.
Okay, let's go shopping tomorrow then.
第二部分看到 aspect 这个单字，它是名词，表示方面、层面，也可以是观点或是角度的意思。我们可以说 One important aspect of learning a language is practicing every day. 学习语言的一个重要方面就是每天练习。再看一句 Carla's positive attitude is an important aspect of her success. Carla 的积极态度是她成功的重要一环。最后介绍动词 mash， 指的是将食物捣成泥状，把点点点捣碎。在课文中 mashed 为过去分词做形容词用，指捣烂的或是压碎的。举例来说 The chef served grilled fish with a side of mashed potatoes and steamed vegetables. 该厨师端上烤鱼，并搭配一份马铃薯泥和蒸蔬菜。又或者说 After the picnic, we found several mashed strawberries at the bottom of the basket. 野餐结束后，我们在篮子底部发现了几颗被压烂的草莓。
All right, we are back with part 2, a taste of Thanksgiving. We've been talking about all this wonderful Thanksgiving food. Let's get into that. Also, when we say a taste of something, we're just giving you an idea of it, a little bit of an experience of it. So Susan and Jeff, it says, continue their conversation about Thanksgiving. Jeff already gave her a good description of the type of things typical families in America will do. So Susan now has a bit more of a specific question for Jeff himself. So what's your favorite aspect of Thanksgiving? An aspect is a part of something, right? Things like Thanksgiving, holidays, traditions, they can come up. They can contain many parts. They can be comprised of many parts. So what's your favorite part of Thanksgiving? Is it the food? Is it the family togetherness? Is it watching all that football on TV? Which part or aspect of it do you like the most?
And Jeff says, well, definitely the family dinner. That's what he looks forward to the most, having the turkey and the pumpkin pie. And Susan says, what's it like? What's the family dinner like? And he says, well, we always have a golden roasted turkey. Roasting means you cook it in the oven in its own juices or something like that, and you have to cook it for a long time. Then there's mashed potatoes with rich gravy, buttery stuffing, and, of course, sweet pumpkin pie. So mashed potatoes, of course, are potatoes that have been smashed or bashed down or mashed down into a sort of mud-like texture. I think the Chinese term is actually more fun than the English one. You call it potato mud in Chinese. We don't call it that in English, but I like that term in Chinese. 马铃薯泥. But we say mashed potatoes.
I guess once you put that rich brown gravy on top, it looks even more like mud.
True, indeed. Brown mud or whatever. And so we've got buttery stuffing. It has a buttery taste. And the pumpkin pie, of course, is sweet because you add a lot of sugar to it. And the whole house smells amazing. Indeed, during Thanksgiving, the house has a very special smell.
It does indeed. And you have a tired mom or grandma or whoever's making all this food. It takes a lot of work to put together a big Thanksgiving dinner, just like Christmas dinner. So hats off to the chef. Wow, says Susan, that sounds delicious. What a menu, what a description. It all sounds great. I'd love to experience Thanksgiving someday. Yeah, well, I think there's some places in Taiwan, hotels that might sell all the Thanksgiving stuff, but it costs a fair amount of money, so you have to be sort of really into it to experience it. But Jeff has an idea. He says, actually, since I can't go home this year, I was thinking of cooking a simple Thanksgiving meal here in the dorm. So he's going to bring a bit of Thanksgiving here to Taiwan, assuming he's there. Since he can't go back to America, he's going to try to recreate Thanksgiving, a simple Thanksgiving, as he says. So he's not going to do all of the stuff. Obviously, his family won't be there, but he's going to do something to recreate the basic idea of the Thanksgiving. And Susan sounds into that. She says, really? That's a great idea. So let's find out what exactly the plan is.
Well, of course, it's always fun if you have more people at a party. So he says, would you like to join me for it? You can attend this party. It won't be fancy. It'll be kind of simple, but we can still make it special. I doubt he's going to be able to roast a turkey. Maybe he can buy some chicken from a fast food restaurant or something as a substitute. And Susan says, I'd love to join you for your celebration. What foods or what kind of food should I bring? What should I get? What do we need to get, actually? And he says turkey might be tough to find. It might be difficult to find. So we could have chicken instead. Like I said, they're probably going to substitute chicken, although I think there are some restaurants that have the turkey fried rice.
Turkey sandwich from Subway.
You could do that as well. That might work. Indeed, I'm sure a lot of Americans have thought of that. We can also get some potatoes, some vegetables, and maybe a pumpkin pie. So there might be places locally that sell that stuff.
Sure, you can make all that stuff at home yourself. Okay, Susan says, let's go shopping tomorrow then. So they're going to recreate their Taiwanese version of a Thanksgiving dinner. And if you have good times, good food, good people together, I'm sure they will recreate it very, very successfully. All right, let's go over to Hanny, who has lots of good stuff to tell us about.
各位同学大家好，我是 Hanny。 我们来看今天的文法重点。在第一部分的对话一开始， Susan 看到 Jeff 在宿舍交谊厅看影片，文中是用 dorm 来指宿舍，它是 dormitory 的简称，是非正式的用法。好，那这边我们就来拆解一下 dormitory 这个单字的字根。在拉丁文里dormire 这个部分是表达 to sleep 睡觉，所以 dorm 这个字根就有睡觉的意思。那么 ory 是名词字尾，表示什么什么的地方或场所，合在一起 dormitory 就是指睡觉的地方，这样应该可以联想到它有宿舍的意思。另外补充一个有相同字根的单字 dormant dormant。 好，那么 dorm 这部分表示睡觉，ant 是形容词字尾，可以表达什么什么状态的，所以合在一起 dormant 它就是形容休眠的、蛰伏的或是暂停活动的。像 a dormant volcano 就是表达休火山、休眠火山这样。好，那么在这段对话里 Jeff 提到感恩节这个节日的意义不仅是食物，它是一个让人们放慢脚步、心怀感恩并享受彼此陪伴时光的时刻。这边有两个重点，首先文中它是用 more than just food 来表达不仅是食物， more than just 表示不只是点点点，不仅仅是点点点。像如果我们说 they are more than just friends， 就是他们不只是朋友。好，那也补充两个跟 more than 相关的用法。第一个 more than a little。A little 原本是少量的意思，可是在前面加上了 more than 却可以表达出很多非常的意思，意思就会跟 very extremely 差不多。像 she was more than a little surprised， 意思是她非常惊讶。第二个补充的是 little more than， 这是表达仅仅只是只不过是怎么样，那么意思会跟 no more than 或者是 nothing more than 或是 only 意思相近，常常用来修饰名词。举例来说 he has little more than a cup of coffee for breakfast， 他早餐只喝一杯咖啡，几乎是只喝一杯咖啡这样子。好，那么另一个重点是文中用到 enjoy each other's company， 表达享受彼此陪伴时光。Company 在这边是不可数名词，表示作伴、陪伴。我们可以用 keep somebody company 表达陪伴某人。那么 enjoy one's company 则是表达喜欢某人的陪伴，或者是享受与某人相处的时光。顺便补充一个用语是 be in good company， 这是表达有同样情形的大有人在，用来指说还有很多人都有相同的情况或者是问题或是见解。那你也可以把它写作 have plenty of company。举例来说 if you're confused about your future， You're in good company 或者是 You have plenty of company 如果你对未来感到迷惘，你并不孤单，很多人都跟你一样。好，那么以上今天重点整理，我们来回顾今天单字吧。
Definitely. This movie is definitely better than the one we saw last weekend with Diane and Mario. Volunteer. Doris volunteered to help clean up the park near our house on Saturday. Shelter. Many homeless people stay in shelters during the cold winter nights. Aspect. Talking to customers is an important aspect of a salesperson's job. Mash. I intend to mash the potatoes for dinner this evening.
Well, that brings us to the end of another edition of our program, and please make sure you join us again next time. From all of us here, I am Roger.
I am Mike.
See you next time.